Hey parents, welcome back to the Parent Guide, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction. I'm your host, Matt Bulkley. I'm so glad you're here as we dive into practical research-backed tools to help your teen win the battle against pornography addiction. Today we're talking about a game changer, keeping score. This is all about helping your teen to track their progress, stay motivated, and avoid getting derailed by setbacks. We will explore a new way to measure progress and refine what is meant by recovery as opposed to abstinence, and identify other markers of progress that aren't necessarily directly related to the frequency of relapses. We'll explore how tools like tracking streaks and total scores can shift their focus from chasing perfection, which sometimes leads to overfocus on failures, to celebrating big picture wins. Plus, we'll cover pitfalls to watch out for and share actionable tips that you can pass along to your teen. So settle in and let's jump into this together. Before we dive in, let me set the stage and clarify, as some of the concepts that we will cover today can be misinterpreted as lowering expectations or concluding that a total recovery isn't possible. Of course, the ultimate goal for your teen is to be 100% porn-free, no relapses, no setbacks. That's the dream, right? And I want to be crystal clear. The tools that we're talking about today are not about excusing relapses or suggesting that total recovery isn't possible. We're not handing out get-out-of-jail-free cards here, but there is a balance that needs to be found. On the one hand, holding an expectation that the teen should strive to avoid using pornography and needs to be accountable for their choices, and that this becomes an all-important part of their life, while at the same time being able to put relapses into perspective and to embrace the concept of analyze, not catastrophize, when relapses happen, and to use relapses as learning opportunities rather than failures. And here's the reality, and backed by years of experience and research. For most teens, recovery isn't a straight line. It's a journey with ups and downs. Relapses happen, and when they do, we want your teen to analyze what went wrong, not catastrophize and spiral into shame or apathy. One of the most common problems that I've encountered over the years in working with the parents of teens struggling with pornography addiction is the expectation of a quick fix that involves the teen simply making the decision to quit viewing porn. And then from that time forward, there are no relapses or setbacks. And if there are, then it is the result of the teen not trying hard enough or not caring enough. And then the parents becoming frustrated and not understanding why they just don't stop. Somewhat reminiscent of an old skit by Bob Newhart. You probably find it on YouTube, where he acts as a therapist and tells his clients that his sessions never last more than 5 minutes and involve only 2 words: stop it. If it were only that easy. There's a reason that it is called an addiction, and more especially for teens, as the addiction becomes intertwined with their developing brain, which impacts impulse control, hijacks their reward systems, impacts decision-making, and the process of recovery takes time. And when I say takes time, I'm talking months and sometimes years. And it does involve periodic relapses. As much as we all want the recovery process to be quick, smooth, and without setback, that rarely happens. Has it happened? Yes, I'm sure that it has happened. But for parents, it's important to reconceptualize what a typical recovery process looks like, as to prevent frustration, anger, and inaccurate conclusions on their part, and to more fully embrace and implement the concepts that we will cover today that allows them to be supportive to their teens' efforts. So markers of progress, clearly over time, streaks become longer, total scores become more lopsided and dominant as your teen is able to begin building a life that becomes more fulfilling than the pull of pornography. The strategies that we're covering today, tracking streaks and total scores, are designed to help your teen focus on their progress and effort, not their failures. It's about building a foundation for lasting recovery while keeping them motivated along the way. And we'll touch on the shame spiral and how to avoid it in a future episode. So make sure to tune in for that. All right, well, let's get into the meat of today's episode. Why keeping score is such a powerful tool for teens overcoming pornography addiction. Think of it like a sports game. When you're playing basketball, you don't just focus on the shots you miss, you keep track of the points that you score, right? So for a teen working to break free from pornography, tracking progress is like keeping score. It makes their efforts feel real, tangible, and rewarding. And there's two tools that really stand out here. One, streaks, which is counting consecutive days without using pornography, and total score, which is tracking their wins over a set period, like 12 out of 14 days. These tools make progress visible, which is a huge motivation. And let's look at the research on that. So 2019 study on habit formation found that tracking consistent behaviors like marking days without a specific habit boosts success rates by 18%. And that's not just a random number. It means that your teen is nearly 1/5 more likely to stick with their recovery if they are tracking their progress. And why does it work? It's because seeing those numbers, day 5, day 10, or a 12-2 score, gives them a sense of control and momentum. It's like leveling up in a video game. They can see that they're moving forward, even if the journey isn't perfect. So let's break down 5 reasons why streaks and scores are awesome for your teen. Picture this as the playbook for their recovery. So 1, streaks show clear progress. Hitting day 5 or day 20 or day 60 or day 90 feels like a milestone. It's a daily high five that says, I'm doing this. 2, a total score celebrates the big picture. Instead of obsessing over a perfect streak, your teen tracks their wins over time, like a 12-2 over 2 weeks, over 14 days. Those 12 days count, even if there are a couple of slip ups. Number 3, they build momentum. Streaks make your teen want to keep the chain going, like not wanting to break a streak on a fitness app. And total score keeps them pumped even if a streak breaks. A study in 2021 showed that framing progress as cumulative, like focusing on total wins, makes teens 20% less likely to quit after a setback or a relapse. Number 4, they encourage self-evaluation. Writing something like 12-2 and then slipped when I was bored, it helps your teen to spot patterns. Maybe they noticed late night scrolling as a trigger, so they tweak their routine. And then 5, they create a sense of achievement. For example, a 12-2 score or a 26-4 score with either a 2-week or a 4-week window, it screams, I'm winning. 2021 study on teen self-esteem found that celebrating consistent progress boosts confidence by 15%. That's a big deal for a teen who might be wrestling with shame. So take a moment to think about this, parents. Imagine your teen marking day 7 or day 14 on a streak in a calendar, in a journal. And can you picture how that small act of tracking could make them feel like they're gaining ground? It's not just about the numbers, but it's about giving them a sense of agency in a battle that they're in that sometimes can feel pretty overwhelming. Now let's get practical about this. How can you see your teen actually using these tools? Well, it's super simple, and you can guide them to set this up. So for streaks, they can track clean days in the Breaking Free workbook or in a journal or in an app. And there's apps out there like Habitica or Streaks that let you mark daily wins, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 10, day 20. It's like stacking points in a game. It's visual, it's satisfying, it keeps them engaged. And for total score, they can track their wins over a set period, like 1 week or 2 week or 30 days or 60 days. So if they go 12 days without pornography and then have two relapses in a 14-day window, it's a 12-2 score, which is a blowout win. They might write in their journal 12-2, stronger when I'm with friends. And that shifts their mindset from I failed twice to I'm actually dominating in this. Here's an example of how to set this up. There are tracking tools in the Breaking Free workbook, which are great, both weekly and monthly trackers. Or you could also grab a notebook or download one of these habit tracking apps. And each night, your teen marks whether they stayed porn-free that day. So for streaks, they count consecutive clean days, 1, 2, 3, and on and on. For total score, tally up the clean days over, say, a 2-week or a 4-week or a 60-day window. They hit 10-4. That's 10 wins, 4 losses. And encourage them to jot down a quick note about what went well or what tripped them up. Like I slipped when I was stressed about math homework. And in the trackers in the Breaking Free workbook, there is a window where they can record what went well or what led to the relapse. Now that reflection is key because it's not just about the numbers. It's about learning from the journey, which brings up the concept of building a recovery versus simply abstaining from an unwanted behavior. So as parents, it's natural to focus on whether your teen is staying away from pornography, but recovery from pornography addiction isn't just about hitting a certain number of days without slipping up. It's about helping your teen to build a life that's so full and meaningful and purposeful that pornography loses its pull, it loses its allure. Think of it like this. Stopping the behavior is just one piece of the puzzle. The true recovery is about the growth, the reflection, and ultimately creating a healthier, happier life that they find fulfilling and satisfying. So let's picture this. Two teens working on overcoming their addiction. One teen has gone 60 days without viewing pornography, but they're just gritting their teeth to avoid it. They're not connecting with others. They're not building new habits. They're not working on themselves. They're just what we sometimes refer to as white knuckling it, just trying to hold out. Now imagine another teen who has had a few slip-ups in that same 60 days, but this teen is open about their struggles. They talk to their therapists, the recovery group, their parents about the relapses. They figure out what triggered those relapses, and they make a plan to avoid those pitfalls. They're also taking steps to improve their life, like implementing exercise regimens, eating better, getting more sleep, setting goals for their grades in school, strengthening family bonds. They're developing spiritually their lives. They're being honest with you about their journey. So which of those two teens do you think is more likely to be in a strong, healthy place a year or two from now? And of course, the second teen, and it's not just about avoiding pornography. They're building a life where pornography has less room to sneak in. So remember, recovery isn't about being perfect. It's about learning, growing, and creating a life that's bigger than the addiction. All right, well, let's talk about the flip side or the downsides to watch for. So streaks and scores are powerful, but they can also backfire if you're not careful. So here are 3 pitfalls to watch out for, which over the years as a therapist, I've seen happen many times. So streaks can sting when they break. Imagine your teen hits a 14-day streak and then relapses, and that counter resetting to 0 can feel like that they've lost everything. In fact, a 2022 mental health study found that teens who tie their worth to perfect goals, 30% more likely to feel crushed by setbacks. And that's a big deal, especially for teens who are already prone to shame. Secondly, a total score needs balance. So if your teen has a particularly rough patch where maybe the 2-week window, it's a 4 to 10 score, 4 days that were porn-free, 10 days of relapse, they might still feel like they're failing if they focus too much on the numbers, and it's easy to get stuck on the losses instead of the wins. So keep that in mind. And then third, there's what we call the tailspin, which is a real problem. This is typically the result of a broken streak or a low score. Total score can spark that why bother mindset, which can lead to more relapses. 2018 addiction studies showed that people who focus only on avoiding a behavior, like watching pornography, are 20% more likely to binge after a slip. So let me just give you an example, a real to life example of what that looks like. So had a client, Ethan, call him Ethan, 16-year-old working to overcome pornography addiction. And Ethan had been on a 30-day streak, longest of his life, avoiding pornography. And obviously his parents thrilled with his progress. But one stressful night after a tough exam, didn't do well on an exam that he had studied for. He slipped and he watched pornography, feeling ashamed and like he had ruined everything. Ethan didn't tell anybody about the relapse. And instead of reflecting on what led to the slip, like the stress and the late night phone use, he fixated on the failure, thinking, what's the point? I can't do this. Why bother? And that mindset led Ethan to giving up trying for a while, and he fell into a pattern of frequent relapses over the next 2 weeks, watching pornography almost daily. So this is what we would call the tailspin effect or the tailspin trap. So in contrast, now consider, to give you an example of another client, I'll call him Liam, struggling with the same issue, also had a relapse after about a 30-day streak, which was triggered by some conflict with a friend, some arguing. But instead of hiding it, Liam shared the slip in session, in therapy, and with his parents. They talked about what happened. Liam realized that he often turned to pornography when feeling lonely. He made a plan to call the friend, try to resolve it, realized that he needed to journal when he felt that way again. By focusing on the learning from the relapse rather than beating himself up, Liam was able to get back on track, avoid a downward spiral, this tailspin, and was able to strengthen his friendships and his trust with his parents. So, lesson for parents, a single relapse, it doesn't define your teen's progress. If they focus only on the not messing up, a slip can send them into the tailspin of discouragement and more relapses. So how do you help your teen to avoid these traps? Let's get into some practical research-based strategies. So five tips that you can share with your teen to make sure that these concepts of streaks and total scores keep them on track without crashing their motivation. And these are grounded in research and real world experience and designed to keep your teen focused on progress, not perfection. So number one, reframe relapse is part of the score. So a slip doesn't erase their progress. It's just 1 point against them. So again, a 12-2 score means those 12 wins still count. Those 12 days, they still count. Encourage your teen to analyze their slips instead of beating themselves up. For example, they might write, well, what threw me off? Maybe staying up late on my phone. A 2019 self-regulation study showed that analyzing setbacks improves habit formation 18% faster. So that analyze becomes so important. Secondly, track the whole game. Numbers are great, but remember, recovery is bigger than just avoiding porn. So encourage your teens to track the other wins in their life. For example, 2-week window, score is 12-2, 12 days without it, 2 days of relapse. Plus, I went hiking with friends, or I practiced guitar 3 times both weeks. A study in 2020 found that tracking multiple positive habits makes teens 22% less likely to give up after a slip. So remember, it's about building a life that's bigger than the addiction. And this is where the concept of recovery is so important. Recognizing your teen's efforts to improve in all these other areas of life, friendships, connections, academics, honesty, open communication with you, spiritual development, hobby development, building positive habits. All of these things are indicators of building a recovery. It's not just the numbers, but it's these improvements in other areas of life as well. So third, celebrate scores, not perfection. So again, a 10-2 score, that's awesome. Maybe treat them to their favorite snack or let them pick a movie for family night. Even an 8-6 score is the total score is the tally of wins versus the losses over a set period, 15%. Number four, anchor to a bigger vision. The numbers are just tools, but the real fuel is your team's why. Why do they want to quit? Maybe it's to feel free, to pursue a dream for their future family. Maybe it's their future wife and children that they envision. Maybe it's to have more friends. Maybe it's to feel worthy spiritually, or to feel better about themselves, or to feel more comfortable around a certain group of friends. A 2018 resilience study found that teens with a clear purpose are 25% less likely to spiral after setbacks. So have them write down their bigger vision, like, I want to feel confident enough to try out for the soccer team, or I want to feel confident enough that I can be around other good kids and feel like I belong there. And then number five, lean on a team. Recovery isn't a solo sport. Encourage your team to share their score with a trusted friend, family member, a therapist, or recovery group. Just sending a quick text or message with accountability. I hit a 2-week window, 10-4 this week, can help keep them grounded. 2022 study found that teens with at least one supportive person are 30% less likely to give up. So let's bring this to life with a story about a team that I worked with. Let's call him Sam, 15-year-old, working to quit pornography. Sam started tracking his streaks using a relapse tracker in the Breaking Free workbook. He had a 3-day streak, then a 10-day streak. It's just like stacking points in a game. He was also tracking the total score, hitting 12-2 in a 2-week window. And instead of stressing about those two slips, he was pumped. 12-2, it's a win. I'm moving in the right direction, is how he was able to perceive that and record it in his notes, in his journal. Also recorded something like, slipped when I was bored, stronger when I'm gaming with friends. 1 week after stress from a fight with his dad, he broke a 9-day streak. But the old Sam would have binged and given up and gone into the tailspin. But with the total score, he was able to look at it as it's still 10-4 for this 2-week window. And he messaged, friend, had a tough day, but I'm still up 10-4. And his friend replied, let's get together tomorrow. Let's go skate. And that support kept him going. So Sam continued to tweak his plan, realized he couldn't keep his phone in his room because that was a trigger, realized that spending more time drying was something that really helped him to avoid relapses and triggers. And within 3 months, he was consistently hitting 12-2 and 13-1 and 14-0 scores in his 2-week windows. And he was stoked about his new skate crew that he had met. His confidence was through the roof, and he was building this life that we're talking about, the life beyond pornography that is more fulfilling and satisfying than the allure of the porn. So this story shows how streaks and scores can shift a teen's mindset. Sam wasn't perfect, but he was winning the big game, and that's what matters. So before we wrap up, let's address a common question that I get from parents from time to time. Should I ask my teen to share their relapse tracking with me? And the answer is accountability is absolutely critical for recovery. And ideally, your teen would share their progress with you, at least weekly. And if you can create a safe, non-judgmental space, then that is the best scenario. But I know from experience that some teens are hesitant. They might fear your reaction or a punishment or a consequence like losing their phone. In those cases, I do think it's okay for them to start by sharing with a therapist or clergy or in a recovery group setting with the goal to build trust so that they do feel safe to share with you over time. Keeping those lines of communication open is such an important thing, and being able to let them know that you are on their team. And with the last podcast episode where we covered the color code tracking board, that may be the place to start, is with that system, the nonverbal communication, and to work toward verbal communication about their relapse efforts over time. Well, parents, I'd love to hear from you if you've tried the tracking tools, or if you can implement the streaks and the total score strategies with your teen, and let me know what's working, what's been challenging. Message me and let me know what your experience is. So parents, you have the power to help your teen use streaks and total scores to stay motivated, to track progress without getting hung up on perfection. Share these tools with your teens, celebrate their wins, no matter how small, and remind them that their journey is about building a life that's bigger than the pornography addiction. So if you want more resources, check out our website, the Recovery Toolbox for Teens. Pick it up in our bookstore on the therapyassociates.net website. In the bookstore, check out the online recovery group that we run for teens on Tuesdays on via video Zoom, or in person if you're in St. George area, and take a look at the treatment services at Therapy Associates, outpatient level services. And of course, if you encounter safety issues or mental health issues that require more intensive intervention, then make sure to take a look at the Star Guides program, starguides.net. This episode helped you, leave a review, share it with another parent, drop me a message with your thoughts or questions, and let's keep supporting our teens together. Thanks for tuning in to the Parent Guide podcast, and we'll be back with more practical tools to help your teen overcome pornography addiction. Until then, keep cheering them on.